Everybody, it's Rick, and thanks for joining me on another Inwyt Walkabout. It's a beautiful first day of summer. I'm walking through a section of my neighborhood. I'll show you a little bit of a view of the side here as I walk along. It's a very nice day. Great to be outdoors in a t-shirt finally. I wanted to continue our conversation from last time, where we were looking at the role that fragmentation plays in our inability to understand what's actually going on. And we used the example of a fundamental fragment being what I think is and what I think should be as our MO for problem solving and for looking at the world, recognizing that in that domain we're really in the space of assumptions and ideas, and we really don't fully have a comprehensive understanding of what we're looking at, and we're actually not even looking at what's actually going on because we always have that lens and perspective that each one of us brings, and where when we're collectively together we make it that much worse because everybody is misaligned. And I wanted to extend that concept, or that observation really, of separation and fragmentation, and look at the backdrop to what I think is and what I think should be, as really a component of our respective self-images and our definitions of our individuality, which is all essentially a collection of all kinds of things that we've talked about. Traditions, upbringing, experiences, education. Everybody has their special mix, idiosyncrasies that create that. And it sort of struck me as I was thinking about and observing all of the events that are going on around the world, again, in warfare, with recent IPOs, with AI, ongoing conversations, how detracting our lack of understanding of the impact that our individuality and self-image, if you will, plays in guiding the activities that we do and what we actually pursue and how we actually apply technology. And I was kind of thinking for myself, relative to how busy everybody is in their lives with their jobs and just in general, sort of asking the question, why do we do what we do? And to just focus on a couple of examples in technology is why are we so intent on pursuing these technologies, and ultimately what do we do with them? Is it really that important to pursue all these things? And the two examples that come to mind for me are drone technology and AI. And in many ways they go together. And I was reflecting on the development of drones and the potential value that that technology offers, as far as all kinds of things. Being able to film using drones in ways that one couldn't do before. There's conversations about using them in terms of delivery. My son, who's a civil engineer, is adopting drone technology and exploring that for surveying, being able to vastly accelerate the survey process, and ultimately, with the alignment of other technologies like GPS, make conventional surveying perhaps obsolete at some point. And then, thinking about AI, how that has so fundamentally shifted so many things in our lives, in the workplace and otherwise, where, again, there's incredible opportunity and probably incredible misunderstanding because we don't understand fully how we think and what's behind our motivations, how all these conflicts start to show up with regard to AI, particularly in the domain of education, where all of a sudden our whole education process comes into question because AI, in many respects, can do certain things a whole lot better, and in many respects can't do things a whole lot better, and essentially replicates and accelerates dysfunction that we innately have provided it as a framework for its functionality. And so what happens in the case of drones is, we immediately say, well, yeah, there's great technology opportunities for the common good in the use of drones, but we also immediately weaponize it. We immediately say, well, I can, now take away the human element of delivering, a weapon and inflict damage, human damage, physical damage remotely with that technology. Same thing for AI applied to it. And in the context of AI in education, now we're dealing with how to use it appropriately, and how, as students who are technically going to university to learn, one would think, are now much more tempted and apt to cheat with it rather than learn how to, critically think and, again, leverage AI in that capacity. So, when you look at those examples and think about, other technologies or other aspects of work that don't have to be technical, but, are advancements in, whatever field you're in, ultimately the question is, again, why are we doing this, and what's the value? What are we really trying to achieve? And I think what we pretty much don't think about, I don't know that we're aware, or maybe we're just sort of accepting that this is the way it is that at the end of the day, the driver for all of these advancements is really not about the common good as much as it is for what's in it for me and how can I advance. And it can start at the individual level and go clearly all the way to what's in it for me as a nation. But there's always a fragment, me versus you, one nation versus another nation, and so forth. And so we immediately get caught in that. And, rather than advancing a technology for common good, it now becomes advancing a technology so that I can win, or that I can get the upper hand, or that I can be more successful than somebody else. And when you apply and observe that in our problem-solving realm, which is around us all the time, you can see how immediately whatever it is we're doing gets fragmented in that regard. And so it's a driver of, this me versus you, this self-image that we create that we want to say is distinct, creates immediate challenges because it fragments one person from another and so forth, all the way up to, one nation versus another. And our technological advancement very quickly shifts from something that, again, could be highly relevant for the common good to become something where the immediate focus becomes what's in it for me and how can I take advantage of it. And, it's not always war that is the end result, but you can kind of see how, again, at the very basic level of individual advancement, that same mindset, if one isn't careful, can be reinforced, escalated to a national level where at some point people are threatened or feel that they have, the upper hand to advance something, impose their will on somebody else. And all of a sudden, now the technology that is for the common good is being weaponized and used against other people or other groups to advance oneself. So I think the point here to make is not to say that we shouldn't be advancing technology, but I think it's worth stepping back and recognizing how fundamental that lack of shared understanding that begins with ourselves, and recognizing how potentially destructive, me versus you, my self-image versus your self-image, and the translation of that into what I think is and what I think should be becomes a core problem that, without being solved, will never enable functional problems or new ideas, new innovations to be realized to their full potential. And so, you look at all the advancements that we've made in science and other domains, and you step back and say, is the human condition better? Are we better off? Are we happier? Have we reduced burnout? We have suicide rates that are, continuing to go up, dissatisfaction, loneliness, all these things that we encounter in our daily lives don't get better with technology and with our advancements. If you look back over the years, they're always there, and they're always driving what we do. So think about that and just watch yourself again in all that you do, how at the end of the day, it's what's in it for me, how can I advance, and how that then frames and informs what you think is and what you think should be. So that's it for today. I will leave you with one more view here of my walk. Again, it's a beautiful, clear day. I hope you have a great day, a wonderful week, and I look forward to our next Walkabout. This is Rick with Inwyt Walkabout. Take care.